Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to break ranks here a little bit and ask Mr. Barthel the question. If you could help clarify the Lust pay for in this. I believe it's $1 billion under the chairman's mark. How does that work exactly?
The Leaking Underground Storage Tank Trust Fund is funded by a separate excise tax of 0.1% per gallon on fuels. The provision in the mark merely transfers balances from the Lust Trust Fund to the Highway Trust Fund.
Are we running surpluses in that trust fund right now that
yes.
enable us to transfer that $1 billion?
Yes.
Or is that just float money that exists in the trust fund?
No, there's, I believe the Congressional Budget Office has reported to you that there's a surplus.
So there's no demand on that money right now?
Well, there are
leaking.
not on that billion, is my understanding.
Okay, and then the other two, the pension smoothing and also the customs fees, between the three, that gets us to $10.9 billion through May of next year. Is that correct?
The legislation extends the expenditure authority through the end of May of next year.
Right. And that would be roughly $10.9 billion that we're going to try to stopgap and pay for that period of time. Is that, if my math is correct?
If you look at JCX 81, where we summed up the trust fund effects, you can see that the highway subaccount of the Highway Trust Fund is receiving a little bit more than $8.7 billion, and the mass transit account $2 billion. So the total of those two would be approximately $10.7, $10.8 billion.
Okay, great. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the fact that there are no easy lifts in this place anymore, let alone for the major infrastructure modernization plan we need as a nation now. But I don't know if anyone else sees the irony of what's going on this week. I mean, tomorrow we're going to have a bill on the floor that will permanently extend the bonus depreciation at a cost of $280 billion over the next 10 years, and not a nickel of it paid for, not a nickel of it offset. And here we are scratching and clawing and crimping together a $10 billion package for 10 months for the infrastructure needs of our nation today, which is wholly inadequate. And I appreciate comments with my colleagues on the other side about the need for a 6-year bill. I think we're all in agreement with it. I fail to see where the pressure points, though, lie that's going to help us get to a 6-year permanent transportation infrastructure bill that we can come to an agreement on. I don't think this decision becomes any easier next May than it is today. Certainly not going to be any easier in December if there's some plan for a lame duck session to deal with this. And it behooves this committee, since it's our jurisdiction and our responsibility, to work together here in the 113th and get this done now. And I would hope my colleagues would support the Blumenauer amendment that he's about to offer that calls on this Congress in the 113th to come up with a 6-year plan for infrastructure investment that our nation needs. Because soon we're going to find ourselves into another presidential election cycle, and you know how much fun this issue is going to be then, when the guns go off for the race to the White House, which my guess is going to be in the middle of November this year. So, I mean, realistically, we don't have much time to dither. And I certainly would be in favor of canceling the August recess and having this Congress singularly focused on this transportation 6-year bill rather than kicking it down the road again, whether it's 6 months or 10 months from now, where we're going to find ourselves in the same exact position that we are today. This is the jobs bill. This is something that can help ignite the growth that we need in the economy and lay the foundation that will sustain long-term economic growth. And it's not happening. It's not going to happen with this $10 billion patch over the next 10 months. And what our contractors, what our DOT folks, what our laborers back home are saying is they need some predictability over the next 6 years so they can get up and get moving. And we're not giving that to them today. And I'm afraid we're not going to be able to give it to them in December or next May when it comes time. And we still have time here with the remaining session in the 113th for us to make some tough decisions. But everyone's so goddamn afraid of making tough decisions around here, especially anything that deals with some revenue. And that really is the elephant in the room here, is how do we
right.
plug
Time
the
has expired.
shortfall? And this doesn't get us there. And I'm afraid we're going to be right back to the same spot, whether it's
Gentlemen-
next year or the end of this year.